All right, all right, all right, all right, all right, all right. There you have it, y'all. Off of the Red Summer album, that is Ride of the Valkyries. I'm gonna close out with that song that you asking for that you heard on IG. I'm gonna close out with it tonight. All right. Let me know if this microphone's audio is good, because this shit is on its last leg. For real, bro. This thing broke into multiple pieces. But yeah, go and pick your album up. All right. Go and pick up that album, The Red Summer. That's 14 tracks. Right off of the redsummermerch.com. Go and get you some heat. Peace to the family, peace to you and yours. Welcome to another episode of Melanin Monday. This is your host, Brother Red Pill. Pardon me for what may be perceived as tardiness, but I made sure that I put together a proper presentation tonight. So I was like in the lab doing what I do, cooking up. And sometimes when you have multiple pots on the stove, You just can't leave them cooking, if you know what I'm saying. So I made sure to put together a very thorough presentation tonight. I just felt compelled. I was doing some research earlier, and things were just, it was just speaking to me. And then I had an earlier build about a day or two ago, and it was entitled "When in Rome," and the reception towards that was real healthy. You know what I'm talking about? So the fact that it was real healthy, it definitely made my mind continue to work and continue to delve into, what it is that I see taking place all around me, because I'm paying attention to what's going on. I'm paying attention to the news cycle, and I'm paying attention to what is, on people's minds and whatnot. So I'm like, okay, let me dissect this a little bit. You know what I mean? Let me look past the surface. Let me do some digging. And I've done some digging. So we're gonna have a conversation tonight. And before I start this conversation, I want to start it with a disclaimer that for anybody that's out there who may disagree with the way that I see myself, or the way that I have perceived reality to be, or just my overall stance on life. You know what I'm talking about? I would definitely say that don't take any of the information personal. When I build, I try my best to build from a respectable place. I want to give you the science. I also want to make you think. I feel that living in a society where people allow healthy debates and open dialogue and questions to be answered by, people who won't feel offended by you posing a question. And also a society where people aren't in fear of research. And then they automatically try to cancel out research and say, oh, that's hate. Oh, that's this. Or, oh, all of the trigger words and what I would call, the fear mongering tactics. They're painting it with a fear brush. They're using fearful language. You know what I mean? They're giving it a connotation that people don't even want to listen to certain information just based off of the propaganda that's taking place. So yeah, let me do the roll call. I don't want to continue even talking until I do this roll call, and then we'll get into the conversation tonight. I'm gonna just go straight to the roll call and make about an announcement, one or two, and then we'll get into the lesson. All right. So let's go ahead and see who's in the building. Central Coast, California. What's happening? You dig? Santa Rosa, California. Skrilicon Valley. Los Angeles. Denver. Jersey. South Central in the building. Michigan is in the building. Carolina 919 is in the building. South Central is in the building. San Diego is in the building. Delaware, Charlotte, DMV, Little Haiti, Houston, Texas, PG County, DC, Kingston, Jamaica, Dominica, West Indies, Queensbridge, 40 side of Vernon. RIP to Ill Will. Salute to Ill Will. Third Ward, Houston, Chi-Town. San Gabriel Valley, is that Khalifa? That's right. The BX, Waikiki, Hawaii. All of the kingdoms are present. I see all of y'all. All of the kingdoms are here. Everybody is on all of the grids of all of the kingdoms. Coincidentally, that's of no, all of that is prepared. That it is of no happenstance. You know what I mean? New Bedford, Massachusetts. We got a lot of people tapping in from Lenape-Hoking, the land that is known as New Jersey, Delaware, parts of Connecticut, Long Island, New York City, Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan. Shout out to Ross Ben, of course, for dropping that information and, helping to remind me of things that I might have even forgotten about. But you know, a majority of us in the building, we domiciling. We lay our heads on sacred land. You know, I just want you to know that. You know, and you could level up if you're in the right place at the right time. You feel me? Which seems like you are based off of the roll call. So salute to everybody that's out there holding down your respectful fort. You know what I mean? And, you know, just affecting the grid by doing what you do, stepping the way that you step in, big stepper. Whatever it is that you do, I know that you do it with, you know, if you tapping into Melanin Mondays, if you riding with us, then I know that you active. You know what I mean? I know that you're taking some type of information and applying it. I know that you're plugging into some type of information that's part of this network that extends through many different halls of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding and whatnot. You know what I mean? Tallahassee, right? The land of flowers. Charlotte, you already know what that is. You know what I mean? Charlotte's, you know, North Carolina, you know that that's sacred. West Oakland, California, you know that that's sacred land. You know the gods rose up from that concrete. Flatbush, Brooklyn, you already know what that is. That's home of the motherfucking brave. That's my home. Flatbush created many legends. What do I think about Tragedy Gaddafi? He's one of my favorite MCs out of Queens. He created a style that Nori and whatnot and other Queen MCs were able to borrow, but he's an originator of an actual style. You know what I'm talking about? Indian style, knees bent. You know what I mean? Like that's his whole style right there. So Tragedy Gaddafi's supposed to have a super bag. He should have health insurance. He should have life insurance. He should have a whole a per diem for life. He should be booked at all of these Lollapalooza shows. You know what I'm talking about? He should be coming out to waves of black hands. He don't need to be in a wave of you know, people of another nationalities and things of that. Nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong at all with that. Those are festivals because they enjoy and they, you know, they more than just enjoy our arts and our culture and our science and things of that nature. You know, they'll support it. They'll show up. They'll be bathed in your glory. You know what I'm talking about? They'll tap into your light. You know, however, you know, there are other people around the world that will benefit from you as well. This is a global game. Don't think America. You could get canceled in America and picked up somewhere around the world. That's a fact. You know, Pittsburgh, PA, the Wild Hunnets, Indianapolis. You know I'm talking about? Tulsa, Oklahoma. I can't make this up. Mississippi, Mound Bill. I can't make it up, right? I can't make it up. Lexington, Kentucky, Grand Rapids, Michigan, Durham, North Carolina, Rhode Island. Come on, man. I'm not making it. Jacksonville, Carolina, sacred land. This is not rehearsed, my niggas. This is all original. All of these cities that I'm calling out. Why is it? This is all sacred land. They all got stories to them. They all got hidden treasures and gems and I mean, bloodlines and things of that nature. So we are tapping in for a purpose. And tonight's conversation, I'm glad that y'all are so tapping in. That means that the tribes are here. It's almost like we're having a congregation and whatnot. We're having a build because we have to have a conversation about Rome. Okay. Me and Blue Pill, Blue Pill started the series in 2015 when I started the evolution will be digitized, and we went to Boston right during the snowpocalypse. We did the lecture and the snowpocalypse started. That's facts. And Blue Pill did Win in Rome. And then later on we did another installment of Win in Rome at Nicholas Bookstore in Brooklyn. I believe it was 2018 or 19, and we bodied it. So it is time that we bring back that installment of Win in Rome. I'm going to be doing that in 2 weeks on a Thursday. Back to the KTL University. You know I'm talking about? The lecture series that I've been doing. Shout out to everybody, all of my KT aliens who've been tapping in and being a part of these classics. Remember, content is king. Always remember that. I've been creating some magnificent content. I've been creating some, just over the last 2 years by doing these lectures and whatnot, 4, 5, and 6 hours. I've been putting together some classics. So, everybody who supported and who have tapped in and benefited from it, put an emoji in the chat room. You know what I'm talking about? Let me see your hands and whatnot. I'm doing positive call and response, unlike your boy the baby, right? I'm not saying some crazy shit like, yo, if you got more than one testicle, put your hands up. And the niggas with one testicle is in the back emailing the concert hall right now. So everybody that has been tapping in, continue to tap in. We're going to be making a lot of strides off of some of these quote unquote platforms into a more controlled environment, like membership sites, you know what I mean? Universities, online universities. We have to, take a lot of this information into places that are a lot more in our control until we completely own. Because if anything has been shown, when in Rome, if you don't own, then you're a subject of Rome. You're going to do as Rome. You're going to be in Rome doing as Romans do. The people who are the ones who can make things happen in this day and age, in this place, and in these Roman colonies that have been conquered, and they follow certain type of Roman mandates about ownership and things of that nature, how you attain power. That's something that we're being shown in everywhere that we turn, from them being able to cancel festivals that you don't own, right? These venues that you don't own, these promoters that you don't own, these quote unquote the people that are getting rich off of these festivals by bringing together hundreds of artists and whatnot, and the attendance is like 100,000, 60,000. And the tickets is like $200 going up to about $2,500. You don't own none of that. You don't even own no stadiums. All of them birds that were sold collectively between the network of the trap rappers, these niggas don't even own an amphitheater. You don't, because they put a lot of those stages together. It's not like it's $1 billion contraption and whatnot. There was a clip of Rolling Loud when the stage had fallen down. But for the trained eye, when you saw the news clip, you was paying attention, to the fact that they were just building that out of a truck. Like that shit was like, they have remote trucks, and they go places and they'll build out a whole performance stage with the super big LCD screen, everything that you can imagine. It's all within a collectible budget. That's what the collective's supposed to be about. Right? That's what a collective group of people, like these promoters, most of these promoters, especially I'm sure the promoters that are behind the festivals, it's a collective of promoters. So if you don't own anything and you're still on the other end of what's been told for years now, from the conscious community to the woke community, going all the way to the knuckle draggers, all the way to the hip hop community, they've been talking about ownership. They've been talking to Nipsey Hussle. That's what when he made his transition, when he ascended, when he was assassinated, that's what he stood on. And people said that they understood what he was saying. Yet and still, every day we wake up to news of what's going on in the world of hip hop, and it doesn't seem like there's too many acquisitions. It's a lot of ass that's kissing, but it ain't no acquisitions. And once again, these people are able to play this game because when in Rome, you got to do as the Romans do. And the Romans are beginning to draw the line in the sand anyway. So they're about to make a lot of their subjects pledge allegiance. And you got to do it in a public. So there's a lot of stuff going on that's making me open up my eyes, and I'm seeing the machinations of Rome at work. And when I did a video the other day, and I talked about the fact that we are singling out a sexual lifestyle of a certain group of people, right? But we failed to point out what these certain group of people, right? And when I talk about these certain group of people, I'm not necessarily talking about our group of people. When I look at an organization, or when I look at an organism, or when I look at a movement and whatnot, I tend to look at the head of the movement. I want to look at the head of the snake. I want to figure out who's at the top of this shit. I want to know who's driving the bus, who's riding who's flying the plane. So when it comes to certain movements that I see that are making moves and moving things around and flexing their muscle and whatnot and making a lot of noise and pushing an agenda, I'm like, I want to tap in. I want to do the research on these organizations. And I came to a conclusion that, you know, we are definitely fighting Rome right now. There's a war going on outside, and Rome's fingerprints are all over it. And when I say Rome, my friends, I'm talking about whatever the empire is that benefited off of the papal bulls, that the Roman Empire, going all the way back to Pope Innocent, when they signed not just the quote unquote papal bull of Inter Caetera Divina, but when they signed multiple Manifest Destiny, there was multiple Roman mandates that have been put into place that have put the people, right, around a global family around the world of multiple ethnicities, nationalities, religions, cultures, backgrounds, you name it. The people who are basically, you know, subjects of this Roman, you know, crusades, of this Roman domination, of this Roman influence that works its way through multiple channels and whatnot. But most of all, beyond anything, the movement that we see that's promoting a wayward, you know, way of living, I'm going to show you beyond any reasonable doubt how it's connected to Rome by the hip, by the bussy, that is, right? So like I said earlier, what I'm going to refrain from doing is trying to insult anyone, because that's not this is for educational purposes only, right? This is for educational purposes only. Most of the information will be sourced and told, it's coming right out of the internet, you know, simple searches, and it's just pure facts. But I'm going to make some comparisons to some things that are taking place. You know, it's interesting to me. Yeah, they just removed gender from the birth certificates. How convenient, right? They just removed gender from the birth certificates. How convenient. Okay. So I'm gonna get into this. Let's get into this. I'll get into my presentation. You know, I put together a little. This is a preview of this lecture that we got coming up. Hold on, let me share the screen. Y'all all right? Somebody said Rome fell just like America is going to. Well, Rome falls, and then it you know, it finds itself manifested in different avenues. You know, Rome never really fell. You know. So here we go. Melanin Mondays, Winning Rome, hyper demasculinity, and hip hop pop culture, right? Keep in mind, we're going to be talking about a certain group of people. So I just want to introduce Yahweh, Jehovah, Allah, God, the demiurge, chief of the archons, a malicious, jealous, egotistical minor supernatural who under many names and guises has deluded many into believing that he is God, our creator and the creator of the world. Envying the divine spark within us, the demiurge and his archons seek to mislead and enslave mankind and work to prevent us from never awakening to our true potential. Thus they spread fear, hatred, and suspicion amongst us and drive us into all manners of reckless crime, into wars and frauds and all things hostile to the nature of the soul. Okay? If anybody knows anything about groupthink, I want you to do your research and go and find out about egregors if you don't know about egregors. But it is an entity that is formed as a result of groupthink, right? Thoughts are real and thought forms are real. So we're going to briefly touch on some of the similarities that we see in the cancel culture, what we were introduced to in popular culture, right? Namely, a show that millions upon millions of people have watched and were watching, one of the highest watched shows in HBO's history, and also a record breaker on cable TV because of its following and the fact that it was the most bootleg show in torrent on the internet at one time, right? It still may hold that title, but that's the Game of Thrones. And in the Game of Thrones, we were introduced to the faith militant, right? Give me a minute. I got to double check on my phone that this is showing correctly and it don't look crazy. Okay, we gooch. So the faith militant was the military order of the faith of the seven, a dominant religion in the seven kingdoms. They served the will of the high septum and enforced the word of the seven-pointed star by force of arms. They were disbanded centuries ago upon the reign of King Jaehaerys Targaryen, following the Order's bloody war with Major Targaryen, known as Major the Cruel. Nonetheless, they were revived during the later stages of the war on the five kings, when a fanatical faction of the Faith of Seven, commonly known as the Sparrows, and their leader, the High Sparrow, that's homeboy right there, they became aligned with the Queen Cersei Lannister. Cersei manipulated her son, King Tommen Baratheon, to name the High Sparrow as the High Septon and to reinstate the Faith Militant in return for using them as the allies against the Tyrells. After being reinstated, the Faith Militant began enforcing their strict religious values on the nobility and small folk alike. They harassed inhabitants of King's Landing who engaged in acts they deemed as sinful, such as street vendors selling idols from other religions or nobles visiting local brothels. They later grew bolder and arrested Sir Loras Tyrell and Queen Marjorie Tyrell. On the High Sparrow's order, they eventually even turned on Cersei herself by arresting her for several crimes, including regicide, incest, and adultery. Cersei eventually admitted to adultery with her cousin Lancel Lannister, who had joined the Faith Militant, which resulted in her making a walk of atonement. Right? The High Sparrow is a prominent member of the Sparrows, a religious movement formed during the War of the Five Kings, and a septon priest in the Faith of the Seven. Now, if anybody remembers the series, the Game of Thrones with the Faith Militant, these were like the cancel culture inside of the Seven Kingdoms, right? They were the ones who were canceling people. They would run down, they had inquisitions running where they were basically finding out who was gay. They were finding out who was an adulterer. They were finding out who goes to the brothels with the little, with the prostitutes. They were finding out all kind of things, and then they were beginning to persecute everybody. But then when you looked at it, these people weren't perfect at all. It wasn't like they were the most honorable people, right? So we got the cancel culture vultures on the attack right now, and you know they are definitely at it. They have their aim, right, and they have their sights set upon hypermasculinity, right? Hypermasculinity is under attack. It's always been under attack, but it's being targeted for removal from a sense, right? So let me describe what hypermasculine is, right? Hypermasculinity is a psychological term for the exaggeration of male stereotypical behavior, such as an emphasis on physical strength, aggression, and sexuality, right? Think about the baby as an archetype when I read this. I'm going to reread it. Think about how he was introduced to you. Think about all of his videos. Just even think about the exaggeration that he puts in his videos when, like in the video Suge, you're introduced to the baby and he's mad brolic. He has the muscle suit on and whatnot. He's known for knocking out the dude who he had beef with. That's when he really began going viral and whatnot. He's known for defending himself and, being hyper masculine. He's killing people in Walmart and walking away from it. So the image that they built of the baby in the industry and whatnot, when the marketing team and when the people who sign him, there's no longer A&Rs, but whoever's behind that, whether it's the CEO, whoever's behind, identifying what archetype the quote unquote artist fits under. They don't want to have the conversation in the open, and they won't openly compare you to what is known as, the minstrel show prototypes or the tropes. But in so many ways, when you look at the roster on a lot of these labels, the minstrel trope will fit very comfortably in all of their rosters, right? The quote unquote stereotypical tropes will fit very nicely on, you have the Jezebel, right? You have the buffoon, right? You have the zip coon. So many, you have the quote unquote the grifters. There's so many archetypes that fit the mold. But hypermasculinity, right? Think 50 Cent, right? Think Locks, right? If you want to, think Dipset, right? But I'm going to show how that's the buffer right there. Not to take anything away from the brothers, but that's when a lot of things that there's a buffer, and there was that pink that this brother popped out in. You know what I mean? Culturally speaking, that was a significant time, but I'll get into it in a minute. But hypermasculinity, that's what Dipset represented. But is that what they began to, is that what they ultimately represent? Is there a thin line? The term can be prerogative, though it is also used when examining the behavior dispassionately. One of the first studies in hypermasculinity was conducted by Donald L. Mosher and Mark Serkin in 1984. I'm going to do the research and find out what their nationality and background is. I have an idea. Mosher and Serkin have operationally defined hypermasculinity, or the macho personality, as consisting of the following three variables. A, callous sexual attitudes towards women. Think the baby who had to make the apology and tapped the Publix to do another apology tour. He's gonna be on the Ellen DeGeneres couch in a minute. Nigga-splaining, right? But when I'm identifying hyper masculinity, right? Just think about the archetypes. Don't take anything personal, because I promise you, this has nothing. I have no dogs in this race. This is nothing personal towards anybody, towards Rome, towards rappers, anybody, towards the vassals of Rome. I'm just giving you the news as it is, right? If the shoe fits, my nigga, if the Adidas fit, wear it. So callous sexual attitudes towards women, right? B, the belief that violence is manly, right? And C, the experience of danger as exciting. They developed a hypermasculinity inventory, HMI, designed to measure the three components. Research has found that hypermasculinity is associated with sexual and physical aggression towards women. Prisoners have high hypermasculinity scores than control groups. Hypermasculine can also refer to a style of erotic art in which male characters' muscles and penis testicles are portrayed as being unrealistically large and prominent. Gay artists who exploit hypermasculine types include Tom of Finland and Bill Ward. Hold on. Demasculinize. Verb. Demasculinize. The act or process of reducing someone's masculinity through words or actions. To reduce in masculinity. Daniel demasculinized Dave by saying he laughed like a girl. Is it demasculate or emasculate? The difference between demasculate and emasculate. When used as verbs, demasculate means to remove the masculinity from somebody, whereas emasculate means to deprive of viral or procreative power. Emasculate is also adjective with the meaning deprived of virility or vigor. Why does a man feel emasculated? A guy who's feeling small or emasculated would start to communicate less openly with you. He'd feel like he can't say something to you because you think he's stupid, dumb, or a loser. A guy can confess about many things to his girl, but if it threatens his manliness, it's the one thing he wants to hide. Emasculate. Remember, to deprive of virility or procreative power. Castrate. Other words from emasculate, emasculation. So this is the image that we get introduced to with the baby, right? He looks like he's hypermasculine, the hypermasculine archetype, right? They fall in love with that. They love it, right? The powers that be, they soak them up. They put them immediately in the power circles. Take your shirt off. Do your thing, brother. Keep talking about that rough sex. Keep talking about tearing, keep talking about the way that, being very graphic in your description about how you handle your women sexually. Be very, be very graphic about it. We're going to line you up with some of these Jezebels and whatnot. Talk your shit. You know what I'm talking about? We're going to let you spew that. We're going to let you tap into that. We're going to let you be that archetype. We're going to let you feel that quote unquote shoe that was left by DMX, 50 Cent. Well, DMX and then 50 Cent, which would, you see a difference in the two. You see a difference in the energy. You see things changing in those degrees and whatnot. And now it's down to, Conway, right? So the babies, HIV, and gay comments perpetuate discrimination, right? So those are the titles that they're running with. As we know, we're familiar with the story that it caught fire, and we're on Monday, and that happened last Sunday ago. And it's still a topic. It's still being spoken about. There's still a campaign. The brother made his second apology today, and the apology tour has begun. But it is going further than just the apology and everything else. There's something underlying taking place that I want people to pay attention to. You know what I mean? Performing at Rolling Loud Festival in Miami, he invited every audience member to put your cell phone lighter up as part of those who are HIV positive or who are gay men who had sex in parks. And that's a lie, the way that they wrote it. Oh, he okay. They wrote it kind of tricky. Performing at Rolling Loud, he invited every audience member to put your cell phone lighter up, apart from those who were HIV positive or who were gay men who had sex in car parks. He also claimed HIV will make you die in 2 or 3 weeks. Medication helping those with HIV to live long, healthy lives have been available for decades. The baby's comments were supported by rapper T.I., who said of Lil Nas X, who regularly asserts his sexuality on stage, was able to say and do as he liked, then the baby should be able to do the same. But the baby faced criticism from many others, including UK's leading HIV and AIDS charity. Now, this is mainly one of the reasons why I feel like the cancel button has completely been pushed on him, and why a lot of the comments that he made during that performance was blown up with almost a campaign that was prepared to do what they needed to do, right? The fact that he aligned himself with Tory Lanez in this quote unquote dispute that's taking place with Meg Thee Stallion, who's clearly been chosen by the powers that be, who clearly has been chosen by the industry, the machine, right? The cabal, this very powerful entity and whatnot. They're like, yo, we're gonna elevate her into pop star status. We're gonna elevate her into a rap queen. You dig what I'm saying? She needs to be you can't openly do what you're doing to just you're thumbing your nose at a whole lot of things. So this situation, even if he knows the truth about what happened that night, in my humble opinion, and that my opinion, is just my opinion, I feel that he played that in a completely immature and unprofessional and unbusinesslike manner. You're supposed to weigh out the quote unquote. You're supposed to weigh it out, bro. You know what I mean? Like I said, at the end of the day, it's still a music business, correct? If I'm correct, if I'm incorrect, please let me know. But at the end of the day, the fact that they call it the music business is because there's certain type of things that you have to do business wise that you may otherwise not have done when you was in the streets, or you might not do it because of some homie lover friend, and that's my peoples and whatnot, and that's my homegirl or that's my homeboy. Nah, that shit don't necessarily fly when it's in the music business. So these are some of the tweets, though, that he responded to his quote unquote controversy to. Now, this is a lesson to be learned about the power of PR, because at the end of the day, PR is public relations, which used to be the Office of Propaganda. You know what I mean? They are the cleanup crew. They're the ones who spin the stories. They're the ones who are going to get you in this corporate. They know corporate policies and they know how to word things. This is what they get paid for. This is their job. You know what I mean? Everything every fight can't be fought with the general out on the field by themselves. Sometimes you got to send your pawns and your bishops into into enemy territory. So he said anybody who had ever been affected by HIV/AIDS, y'all got the right to be upset. What I said was insensitive, even though I have no intentions on offending anybody. So my apologies. But the LBGT community, if I ain't tripping on y'all, do you? Y'all business is y'all business. And for any brands, networks, or artists that like to profit off of black rappers' influence on the culture without understanding it or having the patience to deal with what comes with the position we play in our culture, keep your money next time. Us niggas human too. Hashtag God bless. Now, like I said, and then this was in one of his videos that he said, don't fight hate with hate. My apologies for being me, the same way you want the freedom to be you, right? So they like, nah, that's too hyper masculine. Like, you're still trying to bully us with that's not, you didn't bend, you know what I mean? Like, you're not showing enough remorse. We don't see fear in that statement. Like, we know that the PR people didn't get behind that, my nigga. Like, that's still too niggerly. That's not gonna cut it. So of course there were bloggers that started coming out. That was the first phase. The T.S. Madison, the baby. What's the reason? Do you know how many gays truly buy and stream your music? And do you the amount of people who are living with HIV/AIDS that you attack for nothing? Then the gays break their neck to be at events like that, to be completely disrespected. And then, they had, and then he said even his gay fans got standards. Following the backlash, the baby spoke on his Instagram story, saying what he does at shows does not concern people online. What I do at the live show is for the audience at the live show. It'll never translate to somebody looking at a 5-second clip. Then he accused people on the internet of twisting his words and claimed he is appreciated by straight and gay fans. He went on to claim his gay fans do not have AIDS and called people with the illness nasties and junkies on the street. Even my gay fans got standards, he added. The baby is currently in the U.S. top 10 as a guest artist on Dua Lipa's hit Levitating, and has a clothing collaboration with Boohoo. Boohoo says the baby contents go against its core values. Boohoo condemns the use of homophobic language, and we are reviewing the relationship with the baby. The retailer told Newsbeat, "We pride ourselves on representing the diverse customers we serve across the globe." So then Boohoo came right back and was like, "We condemn the use of homophobic language and condemn we will no longer work with the baby. Diversity and inclusion are part of the Boohoo Group's DNA, and we pride ourselves on representing the diverse customers we serve across the globe. We stand by and support the LGBTQ community and do not tolerate hate speech or discrimination in any form." Right? Then the girl Dua Lipa, she popped out and started tweeting, right? Now this looks like a PR statement. This is not coming from the artist's hands. This does not sound, this sounds like the artist would say it, but this is not somebody just sitting on their phone typing what they feel right away without no PR people or publicists, cleaning that up and making it as, clear as possible of whose side that they're picking and who they're standing with, and encouraging other people to read between the lines, right? So yes, this is the world that that we currently find ourselves in. And then you have the quote unquote one of the matriarchs, right, of that whole movement, because it's a movement, right? This movement is a global movement. But one of their queens, she came out, right? The one who has her son and strutting through her house, basically very gender fluid. That's the best way to describe that. Very fluid in his genderality. So her message to the baby, right, is that you're gonna make hateful remarks after decades. So she drops all of this information about the community and the HIVs and knowing your facts. And, she's basically given him, like an infomercial, right? She's breaking down a lot of stuff going on in the AIDS field. She didn't mention anything about Dr. Sebi curing it. I don't see anything in there about herbs curing AIDS, and that's been done by an African and a black man. She's talking mostly about transfusions and the quote unquote market, the marketplace of AIDS research, which is a multi-million-dollar marketplace, but hasn't produced a knowable cure, right? But she skipped over Dr. Sebi, although he's known on a global scale. So these are the people who came to the rescue of the baby. And my whole thing, another lesson to be learned when it comes to, this new culture war that we're in. This is part of a culture war. It's regardless, you have to be able to understand that there's a war going on outside. It's a culture war. This culture war has targets. And in a culture war, it's about, you have to have your PR team. You have to have your publicist. It's very important to be able to know what to do because they know what they're doing. People know how to hit certain things, hit certain buttons, you know, create certain narratives, spin certain stories, take sound bites and do what they want to do with it. So you on the other end, Boozy, T.I., Tory Lanez, who all represent in their own way the prototype or the archetype of hypermasculinity. Something that they see as, you know, it's not corporate enough. It doesn't fit the corporate vision. It doesn't fit the new corporate vision, right? The newer corporate vision that they have, the new corporate policy. It's like, you know what? We almost finished with you niggas, man, because we have a new crop. We have a new quote unquote, you know, we got a whole new gang in town. And they willing to do things for Rome that y'all might not be willing to do. You know what I'm talking about? Y'all not acting Roman enough, you know. So, and this, like I said, this is no disrespect towards any artist, none whatsoever. I didn't take these pictures. I'm just presenting to you the archetypes, right? I'm sure that this is a great brother. He has a girlfriend, correct? And he's very talented as an artist, you know, as a rager, as a rock star, right? But this is the archetype that he represents, right? That wouldn't be considered hypermasculinity, okay? That would not be considered hypermasculinity, right? This new batch and this new generation and this new wave come, you know, they were born. There was a mustard seed that was planted by the name of Kanye West and other individuals that are in the game who started the shift. But the shift is going full Aquarian, right? I'm not here to judge nor smudge. I'm just giving you the breakdown on what's. No, I'm here to smudge. Fuck that. Who you talking about? We gotta smudge the stage. You know, smudge the stage. So they replaced the baby at Lollapalooza as the headliner to close the whole festival. He was the top of the pyramid, right? This is the music business we're talking about. This is about stocks and bonds. He was at the top of the pyramid, right? As he's a pop star. The baby is a pop, not a regular MC or a rapper that's trying to get on. He's a pop star. He's at the top of the heap, right? He commands top billing. So the bro, Young Thug, this is his new photo shoot with Rolling Stone and whatnot. He has a new album coming out called Punk. So they had him replace him. Of course, you know, Kid Cudi, you know, he's representing, you know what I mean? He's doing his thing. He's like, you know, this is the attack on hype. This is us pushing back against your ideals of hypermasculinity, right? This is us getting more in touch with our Roman side. Hypermasculinity is a psychological term for the exaggeration of male stereotypical behavior, such as an emphasis on physical strength, aggression, and sexuality. This term has been used ever since the research conducted by Donald S. L. Mocher and Mark Serkin in 1984, excuse me. They developed the hypermasculinity inventory, HMI. Listen to this. Designed to measure 3 components. Research has found that hypermasculinity is associated with sexual and physical aggression towards women and perceived gay men. Prisoners have higher hypermasculinity scores than control groups. Wait a minute. Research has found that hypermasculinity is associated with sexual and physical aggression towards men and perceived gay men. Right? So we have an upcoming battle tomorrow, and this fits the prototype of what I just read about hypermasculinity, right? Hypermasculinity is a psychological term for the exaggeration of male stereotypical behavior, such as the emphasis on physical strength, aggression, and sexuality. This term has been used ever since, right? Callus sexual attitudes towards women. Where did we hear that before? Is that coming from Dipset or D Block? The belief that violence is manly. Did we hear that coming from D Block, or do we hear that the Locks, or do we hear that coming from Dipset? The experience of danger is exciting. So both groups give us that. Both groups tap into that type of energy of hypermasculinity when you hear their music and when you see their movement and when you remember what they represented at the heights of their career and things of that nature. I would say that the Locks, which is D Block, which it came out with an album called We Are the Streets, I'll say they lean more so, which were acquainted with the Rough Riders, who were like, you know, doing push-ups and they had the sets in the yard and whatnot. They were riding bikes. They had the dogs and whatnot. Think DMX, right? Think the Rough Riders. You know what I'm talking about? Think D Block. You know, that's the archetype at the height of hypermasculinity in New York hip hop for a long period. It's not that anymore, but it definitely left a mark. It left a stamp. It opened up a paradigm and whatnot. It created a market. It fed an egregore, right? I promise you. So who y'all got? The Locks and the Dipset. They going head to head, right? So on one hand, we have the Locks, who are undeniably a very street-oriented hip-hop group. One thing that we could say about Styles P, Sheik Luch, and Jadakiss is we've never heard, I don't think I've ever heard any rumors that question these quote-unquote men and their manhood and who they stood for as men, right? They remain solid all the way up into today. I don't think that they got too much smirch on their name, not too much mud is on their names and things of that nature. You know what I mean? Very consistent street hip hop, the trenches, the hood, right? The gutter. Okay? Co-signed by Biggie, right? Co-signed by Biggie. So they tapped into a whole nother era, a era that doesn't even exist anymore. They came in the era of Big and survived it and put hits out. You know what I'm talking about? And when them and Big was together, they was a problem. If they're gonna play, I hope they play all of those records tomorrow. Remind these niggas. I hope they rinse every single feature they got with B.I.G., you know, for their rounds and whatnot. And then on the other end of that, well, and then they became D Block, right? Or on the other end of Biggie with the jigginess, because Big is known to be, he's almost a buffer himself, because he had one foot in that in the party world, he had one foot in the jiggy world, he had one foot in the, you know, I'm out here pimping, I got mad women and whatnot, but he was also one foot in the grimy world, one foot in the streets, one foot in the bando, one foot in tying you up and throwing you off of a bridge. And then over here with D Block, it gets super. It's the highest epitome of hypermasculinity. It's hypermasculinity at its heights, undeniably. Even when Eve she was a pit bull in a skirt, right? So they went through the shiny suit era, and dudes was threatening them. Remember the shiny suit era, they was going to cancel them. Talking about cancel culture, they was going to cancel the Locks all the way back then because their idea of them being street was compromised because they was slipping and niggas thought that they would wind up in a skirt. Their biggest controversy was the shiny suits that Puff had them in. He was trying to make them pretty like he did to Mason Bethel, right? And one of the things about the Locks and the Dipset is that Biggie is one of the, I would say that he is the middle. He's the common denominator because it was Big who brought us Cameron, right? It was Big who brought us Cameron. Big was the one that put Cameron on, right? And before Cameron, there was the one who blurred the lines, and that's Mason Bethel, right? He went from Murder Mace to the Pretty Boy Mace. He's the one that kind of blurred the lines when it came to what we see in hip hop today, where you have a lot of these gangsters that are in the music and whatnot, But you know, these are some sassy gangsters. You know what I'm talking about? These niggas are sassy. You know what I mean? And there was a certain shift in the culture that took place when being sassy was allowed to exist, because prior to that, it wasn't allowed to exist in the culture. That shit, there was no welcome mat. There wasn't a market open for that. People couldn't openly celebrate it like that. You know, when Cam pulled up, go and watch the Drink Champs, right? Big is the deciding factor. He's the one that brings both of these artists, you know, to their respectful their place in the game, in New York hip hop, in 90s hip hop, and mixtape hip hop, because that's what this was. The Locks and even Dipset, these are mixtape kings. Yeah, they got hits and whatnot, shit that was going brazy in the club. They have singles, but they got mixtape hits. That's what we remember, the mixtapes, the freestyles. They was setting the bar. They was creating a mood. These were coaches of street culture, of making it through the trenches. Jada had you thinking shit that you didn't even think that you could think. You know, Jada was going to war against Beanie, my nigga. The Locks had a grip on the city, bro. I don't know what these niggas talking about, but Jay-Z, but Cameron and them and the Dipset had they was the niggas that got closest to putting Jay-Z under pressure. How about that? You know what I'm talking about? So you can't take away how nice they was. They kind of had Hove on the ropes at one point in time. Cam was on his neck. You know. So the influence that the Dipset has, right? You see that they still have a street. It's still a street, but it's not as street as it's not as hyper masculine as the Locks. This is not hyper masculinity that you see right here, my friends. This is not hyper masculinity. This is that one molecule that hyper masculinity has away from other shit. You know what I'm talking about? This is when a lot of things begin to, you know, it began to change, right? They brought swag to the game. That's something that you can never underestimate. You can never take that away from the Dipset. You can never take that away from Cameron. He brought a certain swag to this shit. He brought a certain sauce that's undeniable. You know what I mean? And then they imported that sauce around the world. That sauce is what even got Lil Wayne saucy. He got splashed with that sauce. He was never the same. He got in his bag and whatnot. Not to say that he wasn't in his bag before that, but when he tapped into the Dipset, shit changed. He got into the Bapester. He got on a whole nother shit. That's a fact. I was there. I remember that. Right? Undeniably, this logo right here is, you know, way more recognizable than the Locks. The logo that their branding, the Dipset branding, is definitely more powerful. That machine that they had behind them, they had Dame, you know what I mean? They had themselves. Jim Jones was very instrumental in the branding aspect of it. You know, multiple talented. You know, he wears many different hats. You know, and like I said, Cam was on Jay neck at one point. You know what I'm talking about? And to be honest with you, I think that he's a strong factor about why the Rock disbanded. Not to say that this probably was already the death of a dynasty, but that was I think that's the hair, the string, the straw that broke the camel's back. Him being president, making moves, flexing his muscle. You know what I mean? So when Cameron bent, you know, when he came out and he made it, you know, he made that pretty gangster shit that Murder Mace, who became Mason Bethel, right? He introduced that shit in a way too, where it was about the pretty gangster, the metrosexual, the shit that Puffy was on as well. But they were pushing the whole metrosexual narrative. Go all the way down the line. Now we have people like Lil Nas X. You got to see that there's a continuum. There's a, you know what I mean? Not to say that, you know, but there's an influence. Let's read the definition again. Hypermasculinity is a psychological term for exaggeration of male stereotypical behavior, such as an emphasis on physical strength, aggression, and sexuality. This term has been used ever since the research conducted by Donald L. Mosher and Mark Serkin. They developed the Hypermasculinity Inventory, HMI, right? And designated and designed to measure the three components. Research has found that hypermasculinity is associated with sexual and physical aggression towards women and perceived gay men. Prisoners have higher hypermasculinity scores than control group. That's the callous sexual attitudes towards women, the belief that violence is manly, and the experience of danger is exciting. Okay? That's if hypermasculinity was a person, it would probably be Beanie Siegel, right? He's an archetype. He's another archetype. I'm pointing out certain archetypes that are in the industry, and you're beginning to see these archetypes fade away. You know what I mean? You're beginning to see these archetypes. They're challenging these archetypes. You know, they're replacing these archetypes. These archetypes are not necessarily welcomed into this new industry that's connected to, you know, to their Roman counterparts, right? This man right here, who came along around the same time of Beanie Siegel, he said on his Breakfast Club, the Drink Champ, the Drink Champ interview, which is a must listen for everybody who is a fan of hip hop and is into hip hop history. The Beanie Siegel episode, it just dropped, I think yesterday or the day before. That's a must listen. He broke down a lot of stuff. He spoke about the fact that he backed down a gun on Liar Cohen, right? Going back to what I was talking about hypermasculinity and how that archetype and that trope was targeted in the music industry to basically not make it to the next phase. That next phase when, you know, they leveled up and they began to let people in the door who were not hypermasculine, who were not threats, who were not, you know, considered to be, you know, a certain type of alpha male, or, you know, have a certain type of message or have a certain type of energy. And, you know, they were definitely demasculating and promoting such through the archetypes, through the people that they were pushing and signing and whatnot. This is a bridge right here. He's a buffer. Kanye is definitely a buffer. Him coming into Rockefeller with the pink sweaters, him coming into Rockefeller, you know, with the fashion and whatnot. Him coming to Rockefeller, and he wasn't spitting on some gangster. He was spitting about Jesus walking. He was talking about polo teddy bears and tees and whatnot. You know, he was name dropping a lot of Roman designers and whatnot. He was basically saying that it's revenge of the nerds. He was pushing for the blurs and the nerds and the misfits and the weirdos and even the LBGT community. He had a thing on MTV that he did where he was championing them, and he was basically like, he's a protectorate, and that opened him up to a whole new audience. You remember that? So we've gone through different changes, different iterations of Ye, and Ye is like a master node. Out of Ye is many, right? Out of Ye is many. So, you know, these are the niggas that kind of came in and shifted the game. You know what I'm talking about? You know, these are some of the seed planters who ushered in this, you know, a whole new paradigm and whatnot, a whole new energy and a whole new movement in pop culture and in hip hop, right? John Monopoly, right? Is that the bro? Is that Virgil right there? That's yeah. I remember seeing this shit and niggas was really laughing and going crazy. And now when you look in the game, and now when you look at hip hop or any picture on TikTok or the gram and whatnot, chances are you're gonna see a group of people dressed like that, right? So out of many comes, you know, out of Ye comes many, you know. All of his proteges, the majority of his proteges, you know, are blurring the lines. They're not dealing with that quote unquote hyper masculinity. As a matter of fact, he had a cover that says the new masculine, right? The new masculinity, right? The new masculinity, and he's in a bedspread. It looks like, right? So the new masculinity that the festivals are getting behind as they drop the baby, and they'll never book Boozy, they'll never book the baby, they'll never book Tory Lanez, they'll never book those prototypes at the Rolling Louds and all of those festivals, starting with the baby, because they using him as an example to basically burn that bridge, to cut those fucking ties. These are going to be the stars, and everybody that comes on, these are the OGs now, and all of the underlings will come under them, and the people who are completely down with their agendas, right? That archetype that I pointed out, the D blocks and everything, you know, you could come through, but you know, you have to have an invite. You know what I'm talking about? You got to have an invite, right? So remember, they started getting mad at him around this time. Black women was throwing him away because of the situation of colorism and whatnot with his soon-to-be baby mama, right? So I pointed out that when doing research on Rome, you know, I was like, you know what? I want to see what the head of the snake looks like. You know what I mean? Where did they come from? And where's the head of the snake? Where does it rest? Right? So I went ahead and did some research, and Tel Aviv came up as the gayest city on earth, right? It's the same place where I thought that a lot of religious people are, happens to be the gayest city on earth. And Tel Aviv is where a lot of the people that own the entertainment industry, tech industry, big tech, big pharma, I mean, a whole bunch of people come from there. So that was very interesting. So I started to dig a little bit more, right? And Tel Aviv Pride is one of Israel's largest and wildest celebrations. The Pride Parade takes place annually as part of Tel Aviv Pride Week, a series of events that brings the city's LGBTQ community together to celebrate who they are in total freedom. While a 1979 protest held at Rabin Square is often regarded as the city's first Pride event, look, Tel Aviv Love Parade in 1997 bears more similarities to the parade as we know it today, right? So they've been doing that since the 70s, right? A survey published the day before Tel Aviv 2017 Pride Parade revealed that 79% of Israelis support same-sex marriage or civil unions. In another survey, this time conducted with gay travelers back in 2012 by American Airlines, 43% voted Tel Aviv as the world's best gay travel destination, way ahead of New York, Toronto, Sao Paulo, and Madrid, right? Madrid, Spain. Listen to this. Pay attention to these cities that we're naming, right? Because I'm going to show you what I'm talking about, right? So Zionism, Jerusalem or Tel Aviv? Because we're talking about two different cities, correct? How do two most prominent cities in Israel differ from each other? I will never forget Jerusalem, but I will always remember Tel Aviv. However, Zionism is not exclusively religious. It is also cultural. Zionism creates a home for every Jew, whether religious or not, creating a proud Jewish national identity. Personally, I feel this is more in Tel Aviv than in Jerusalem. Before the state was established, Chalutzin, Jewish pioneers, came to Israel and built the city, turning what was previously swampland into a beautiful city. Looking at the spotless beaches and bustling city, no one would guess what it looked like 110 years ago. Zionism is the idea that the Jewish people can build a country where we are independent and sovereign, protecting us from persecution and allowing us autonomy. Tel Aviv fulfills that goal, complete with a tourism industry, beach, cultural cuisine, and Silicon Wadi, the Israeli Silicon Valley. The city is the peak of Jewish strength and unity. Jerusalem will never cease to be important to the Jewish people, always remaining our religious capital of the world and holding our roots. However, in some ways, Tel Aviv is the future, the pulse of the country. I will never forget Jerusalem, but I will always remember Tel Aviv, right? These are some of the largest companies in Israel. One of the top companies, the number one, is a pharmaceutical industry, right? Just to show you. And these are the products of the pharmaceutical products. So it's safe to say that this is part of Big Pharma. This is an extension of Big Pharma. As you can see, they are heavy into what is known as pharmacopoeia, right? Chemicals and things of that nature, and drugs, right? They have headquarters in North America, Europe, Australia, and South America, all right? And their shares are listed on the stock exchange. How many Germans live in Israel? Because people hear Israel and they don't think of, they just think Israeli, not realizing that these are nationalities that make up the Israelis. So the Polacks or the Poland, people from Poland, in 2015 is 185, in 2008 is 190. People of France nationalities, countries of origin, France, 87,000, right? Germany and Austria, 70,000, up from 50,000 and then 70,000. So there's people from Russia, Romania, Poland, Greece, Germany, Hungary, United Kingdom, Bulgaria, Morocco, Ethiopia, Libya, Egypt, Algeria, Iraq, Persia, all up in there. The African Hebrew Israelites of Jerusalem. The Nation of Jerusalem is a religious sect of Black Americans founded in 1960 by Ben Carter, a metal worker in Chicago. The members of this sect believe that they are descendants from the tribes of Judah, driven from the Holy Land by the Romans during the First Jewish War, 70 AD, and who reportedly immigrated to West Africa before being taken as slaves to the United States. With a population of over 5,000, most members live in their own community in Dimona, Israel, with additional families in Arad, Mitzbi, Ramon, and the Tiberias area. The group believes that the ancient Israelites are the ancestors of Black Americans and that the factual Jews are imposters. Some scholarship does consider them to be of sub-Saharan African origin rather than Levante. Their ancestors were Black American who, after being expelled from Liberia, illegally immigrated to Israel in the late 1960s using tourist visas, requesting that the Israel provide them legal citizenship status. Israel granted their request. The African Hebrew Israelites, like the Haredim and most Israeli Arabs, are not required to serve in the military. However, some do. So then you have neutralized foreign workers. Some neutralized foreign workers and their children born in Israel, predominantly from the Philippines, Nepal, Nigeria, Senegal, Romania, China, Cyprus, Thailand, and South America, mainly Colombia. Then they have non-citizens, which are African migrants. The number and status of African migrants in Israel is disputed and controversial, but it is estimated to be at least 70,000 refugees, mainly from Eritrea, Sudan, South Sudan, Ethiopia, and the Ivory Coast, reside and work in Israel. A count in late 2011 published in Ynet pointed out that the number only in Tel Aviv is 40,000, which represents 10% of the city's population. The vast majority live in southern parts of the city. There is a significant population in southern Israeli towns of Eilat, Arad, and Beersheba. Foreign workers. There are about 300,000 foreign workers residing in Israel under temporary work visas, including Palestinians. Right? So here's the history and all of that. The Ottoman period, the second. Hold on. So the etymology and the origins, right? So let's do the etymology of Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv is the Hebrew title of Theodore Herzl's Old New Land. Translated from German by Nahum Sokolow. Sokolow had, I'm chopping his name up, but you read it, you see where it is. Sokolow. Sokolow had adopted the name of a Mesopotamian site near the city of Babylon, right? Babylon, mentioned in Ezekiel. Then I came to them of the captivity at Tel Aviv that lived by the river Chebar, and to where they lived, and I sat there overwhelmed amongst them 7 days. The name was chosen in 1910 from several suggestions, including Herzliya. It was found fitting as it embraced the idea of a renaissance in the ancient Jewish homeland. Aviv is Hebrew for spring, symbolizing renewal, and Tel is an artificial mound created over centuries through the accumulation of successive layers of civilization built one over the other and symbolizing the ancient. Come on. Although founded in 1909 as a small settlement on the sand dunes of north of Jaffa, Tel Aviv was envisaged as a future city from the start. Its founders hoped that, in contrast to what they perceived as the squalid and unsanitary conditions of neighboring Arab towns, Tel Aviv was to be a clean and modern city inspired by the European cities of Warsaw and Odessa. The marketing pamphlets advocating for its establishment stated, "In this city, we will build the streets so that they have roads and sidewalks and electric lights. Every house will have water from wells that will flow through pipes as in every modern European city, and also sewerage pipes that will be installed for the health of the cities and its residents." That was in 1906. Right? This is their coat of arms. What's the religion of Tel Aviv? Religion has always played a huge part in the city of Tel Aviv, and statistics shows that 91.8% of the population identifies as Jewish, although various Jewish beliefs are found throughout the city. What is the main religion and language of Israel? About 8 in 10, 81% Israeli adults are Jewish, while the remainder are mostly ethnicity Arab and religiously Muslim, 14%, Christian 2%, and Druze 2%. Overall, the Arab religious minorities in Israel are more religiously observant than Jews. Countries that you cannot visit with an Israel passport stamp. Pay attention. Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, Lebanon, Syria, Libya, Kuwait, Pakistan. Who cannot enter Israel? Currently, 16 countries bar Israeli passport holders. These include 6 on presidential Donald Trump's list: Iran, Iraq, Syria, Sudan, Libya, and Yemen. Israelis also banned by Algeria, Bangladesh, Brunei, Kuwait, Lebanon, Malaysia, Oman, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. PayPal partners with ADL to fight extremism and protect marginalized communities. So PayPal got in bed with the ADL, a Jewish organization, the Anti-Defamation League, right, who has their ties to Tel Aviv and Israel. Today, they announced a new partnership initiative to fight extremism and hate through the financial industry and across at-risk communities. This is the latest effort by PayPal in combating racism, hate, and extremism across its platforms in the industry. So basically, they could clip your account, they could cancel your account if the ADL, who is a Jewish control league, says that you are spewing hate, you identified as being in a hate group and an extreme group and extremism, a misinformation, person who is spreading misinformation, somebody who they deem to be quote unquote, not cooperative, you know what I mean? Not cooperative. Somebody who needs to be tamed, somebody who needs to be silenced, who needs to be deplatformed, who needs to be censored, you know what I mean? Who needs to be muffled and whatnot. That's what they're doing. So the ADL is the world's leading anti-hate organization, founded in 1913 in response to the escalating climate of anti-Semitism and bigotry. Its timeless mission is to protect the Jewish people and to secure justice and fair treatment for all. Right? It is unrealistic and unacceptable to expect the state of Israel to voluntarily subvert its own sovereign existence and nationalist identity and become a vulnerable minority within what was once its own territory. Zionism is the nationalistic movement of the Jewish people that supports the reestablishment of a Jewish homeland and the territory defined as the historic land of Israel. Their mission to stop the defamation of the Jewish people and to secure justice and fair treatment in all. Zionism is the Jewish national movement of self-determination in the land of Israel, right? So this is the head of Instagram, who's responsible for taking pages, shadow banning individuals such as myself and my brother Blue Pill, and many other people, and a lot of things, taking pages, not just from boozy badass nigga, from people who are really putting information out there, the Rizza Islams of the world, you know what I mean? The people who are putting real information, the people that are putting, the truth, facts, stats, you know, not chatty patty, not how they feel, you know, not the slew of things that are being lifted up and celebrated by algorithms that are being created by Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, all of these platforms. So Adam Mazori is a American Israeli businessman and the head of Instagram. He formerly served as an executive at Facebook, right? So I'm giving you a comparison that I want to show. I Googled something and then I said, well, I want to see something. I want to see if these are Roman influenced countries. Because I Googled this right here. The world's most gay friendly cities, right? And then I got a whole list of cities. But I'm going to show you how that influence, right? That Roman influence is in all of these cities. So when I say when in Rome, and when I say what we as the teachers and whatnot, when we're teaching about a certain type of, lifestyle, we're equating that to what Rome is known for. We're equating that to the way that Rome, by way of the Roman Catholic Church, right, who stand behind the doctrine of discovery, amongst many other things, that subjugate people up and down this land. You know what I'm talking about? I'm talking and the plethora of stories that that historically exist, that point to the quote unquote heinous, genocidal, atrocious acts of agents of the Roman Catholic Church, the people who they signed up to basically carry out a lot of their barbarism, which was the crowns of Castile and Aragon, which would be Spain and Portugal, right? The permission that they gave them when they split up the two spheres of the earth, and they told them to go forth in the name of the papal, the Holy See, and they conquered in that name. And the places that I pointed out that are at the head of the snake of this movement, and it's not black people, it's not melanated people per se, majority at the head of the snake, at the top of that pyramid, driving that train, riding that boat. The movement, that movement is intricately tied into Rome and all things Roman. And I find that to be very interesting. This record industry, the movie industry, they have a connection to Tel Aviv. They have a connection to the Roman Catholic Church. They have a connection to a lot of Romanistic things, concepts. So in Sao Paulo, which is at the top of the list of the gayest cities in the world, Roman Catholicism is the dominant religion. And the Archdiocese of Sao Paulo is one of the world's largest in a number of adherents, right? So, and it also is one of the most racist places for people of melanin, right? Not one of the most, but the things that go on in the favelas, the history of Brazil, the way that our people have been treated over there, it goes beyond saying, right? So they have, yeah, they have the same-sex marriage over there, right? So another capital of the world is San Francisco, right? And that happens to be Silicon Valley, where the majority of these platforms have been created, launched, operated from. The foundation of what is known as Silicon Valley happens to be of this proclivity and belong to this movement, and happen to be nationality wise from the place that I just said, Tel Aviv, or surrounding areas, right? So in California, Protestants make up the largest religious group with 32%. There are more than 200 mega churches in the state, with some of them going all the way back to the 19th. Among the Bay Area, they are said to be Catholic. Protestants constitute 23%. 10% say they belong to a non-Christian religion, right? This is in California. In Toronto, the majority of people are Christian. This accounts to 54%. Christianity is the most common religion in a city that is 54.1%, with 28% of the population being Catholic, followed by Protestant, Christian Orthodox, and other denominations. The Neanderthals, the Netherlands, which was on one of the lists. The largest group is the Roman Catholic. The largest religion in Amsterdam is still Christianity, with Roman Catholics as the majority, right? So it seems that they're everywhere. The largest religion group is 64% in Melbourne, Australia, Christianity. That's the largest religious group. And half of the members are Roman Catholic, followed by the Anglican, and the Eastern Orthodox, and the Uniting Churches, right? The white Anglo-Saxons. The main religion in Germany is Christianity, with around 2/3 of the population identifying as Christian. New York State, which they also said was one of the more friendly cities, also a population of majority Catholic and Roman Catholic, right? When in Rome. So the same places that they're not allowed to go into, they talk greasy about in terms of their dangerous attitudes towards the LGBT community. Conversely, in some countries with backward and dangerous attitudes to the LGBT community, such as Iran and Saudi Arabia, discreet but vibrant underground scenes can thrive. This is even the case in Russia, where activists say 2 people were killed last week and nearly 40 detained as part of a new homophobic crackdown by police in the Chechnya region. You'll find a gay scene in many places that might surprise you. Some places like Moscow and St. Petersburg, vibrant gay communities despite the homophobic laws there. Dublin is like gay Disneyland now, and that wasn't the case 20 or 30 years ago, right? So when we have these plethora of Catholic church, well, what comes with the plethora of these Roman Catholic church is the quote unquote sex scandals that revolve around these Catholic churches. The fact that these churches are considered to be some of the most demonic places in terms of what they've done to the populations that have been surrounding them ever since that they've touched shores in these different places by decree of their popes. They've been spreading a lot of quote unquote trauma, pestilence. They've been spreading a lot of abuse. They've been spreading a lot of rape. They've been spreading a lot of pillaging. They've been destroying a lot of souls. They've been taking a lot of people's manhood. They've been tricking people and utilizing the cloth and whatnot to deceive. They've been very deceptive. Every single place that they have set up shop. Okay? Every single place that they have set up shop. Rome has sank their teeth into the people, and it's showing you what they represent underneath it all, the egregor, right? That parasite that feeds off of the life force of people that has been doing such. That's what colonism is. That's what colonialism is. That's what chattel slavery is. You know what I'm talking about? That's what the level of oppression that they exercise in many different places that they've renamed and rebranded third world countries, you know, shithole countries, you know, places like Haiti that they keep underdeveloped, places on a continent that they keep underdeveloped and pay people $5 a month and turn it into sex tourism, had them people selling their souls, selling their bodies, human trafficking, sex trafficking, organ harvesting, you name it. You know, almost 1,700 priests and clergy accused of sexual abuse are unsupervised, right? You know the stories. The stories are endless, all right? This is a map of all of these cases that you got around the world and whatnot, where they are practicing their vampirism, where they are practicing, where they're flipping people, where they're turning people, where they're biting them, where they're doing what they do, you know, where they're you know, they're getting away with all of these heinous crimes in the name of Rome, spreading these viruses, you know, creating all of this pain. It's undeniable. From Australia to Ireland, from Canada to Chile, from the United States to France, cases of sexual abuse within the church have made headlines, provoking a shift in public debate, changed the course of justice, and prompted the church to reform and acknowledge the harm done. Here are 6 cases that have made their mark. The George Pell case in Australia, the Ryan Report and the Murphy Report in Ireland, the Diocese of Boston case. In Canada, the case of the residential schools, the same schools that they're unearthing mass graves of children in Canada, Indian children all over Canada. In Chile, the Barrows case, and in France, the Prénat Barberin case. Okay, these are cases to go and research if you want to tap into, you know, some of the hallmark cases that that expose for good these churches and what they are really out here doing and what they're covering up, and how far their quote unquote tentacles and their claws are reaching. Right? So, like I said, the baby's response, because they're looking at him through the lens of a hyper character trope or a hyper masculine hetero, you know, because they don't identify him as somebody who's hyper masculine, but he's gay. No, they're identifying as his, you know, they get off on him, on a person like, you know, the baby. He's some like 50 Cent. He's somebody that they basically, you know, as long as they could control him, you know, he's like a Mandingo wrestler to them. But his arrogance is getting the best of him, of course. And I think when he said that, when he was saying that he got the whole, you know, it's a lot of other rappers who probably would help him out, or, you know, I don't know. But like I said, you know, they get a hard on for shit like that. You know what I mean? You know, he got that machine going once he said what he said. So they're doing their best to cancel him. So this is his apology for today. As you can see, the language has changed. Social media moves so fast that people want to demolish you before you even have the opportunity to grow, educate, and learn from your mistakes. As a man who had to make his own way from very difficult circumstances, having people I know publicly working against me, Knowing that what I needed was an education on these topics and guidance has been challenging. I appreciate the many people who came to me with kindness, who reached out to me privately to offer wisdom, education, and resources. That's what I needed, and it was received. I want to apologize to the LGBTQ community for the hurtful and triggering statements that I made. Again, I apologize for my misinformed comments about HIV/AIDS, and I know education on this is important. Love to all. God bless the baby, right? So they said that the baby made the apology after the booking started getting canceled and the bills are due, and that nigga got to nigga explaining, you know what I'm talking about, and he's on the apology tour. So they kicked him off of Park Life Festival, Lollapalooza. They replaced him with Young Thug and G Herbo. They kicked him off of Governor's Ball. They replaced him a day in Vegas with Roddy Ricch, right? Somebody who's not as uncontrollable as him. And he got dropped by Boo Hoo Man, right? So this nigga came after him, right? And he's the one that broke the mold when he broke and him and Eminem did what they did, you know, and when him and Eminem did what they did. But now Eminem being the highest selling artist in all of hip hop, when he was able to give the olive branch with Elton John, you know what I'm talking about? That propelled them into a whole nother demographics, and that also left hip hop very vulnerable. You dig what I'm saying? So he came out with a whole thread and whatnot, once again pushing facts about AIDS and things of that nature. But like I said, he has a foundation. So at the end of the day, this is the baby. They're taking opportunities. They're opportunists. Him and a Madonna. What does it mean culturally when they come after you? You know, he would be the grand dragon of that movement. You know, he would sit up there very high and whatnot. So by him and what's her name? I'm trying to think what her witch name is. Madonna. I'm trying to think what is it? Margaret or something. Whatever that is, whoever she is, them two right there, you know, she's mother. You know, she's the grand dragon. She's probably like Cersei to them. And this nigga here is like one of the Lannisters. So, you know, after he's making the call, everybody's gonna activate. You know, he's a Sir. That's Sir Elton John. You know, but nobody talks about the fact that he came up. He has a very heterophobic song where he talked about a Jamaican transvestite, you know, and a Jamaican man who falls for a transvestite, and he was getting a lot of heat for that back in the days and whatnot. You know, he was definitely getting it. And then one of the things that you don't hear about while they were focusing on the baby and aiming all of their quote unquote rage towards him, you know, nobody ever said anything about Ed Buck. You know, there was no releases from Madonna or the nobody from Lollapalooza made any state. You know, not that they were supposed to, but at least some of the quote unquote Democratic, the Clintons, people who were benefits, they didn't denounce him. You know, they didn't throw him away. They didn't publicly, you know, distance themselves from him. Nobody said a thing. And this man killed 2 gay men, black men that is, right? And didn't even get charged with murder. He pled guilty to a whole bunch of other shit. She got found guilty for a whole bunch of other shit that was not murder, nor was it manslaughter. 66, he got convicted the other after a 9-day trial. And prosecutors said he solicited men for party and play sex games in which he gave out drugs and injected them into his partners. 2 of the men suffered fatal overdoses at Buck's apartment in West Hollywood. Gimel Moore, 26, and 55-year-old Timothy Dean in January 2019. Buck, a prominent local and national figure in Democratic politics who contributed to the campaigns of President Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, faces more than 2 decades in federal prison when he's sentenced, right? So now Nas is about to drop this week. So we got to see if he could take Little Nas X off of the Billboard charts, because right now, Little Nas X, the new generation Nas, is on top of the charts, right? While the Baby Falls, they're going to begin to push this industry plant more to the top. So remember the Nas that we have. Now there's a new Nas in the building. Dua Lipa's Levitating slides 3 to 5 spots on a Hot Whenever. His following his controversial topics, radio airplay for the Baby's version of the Dua Lipa song has declined and whatnot. Yeah. So yeah, that's just the end of my first part that I'm doing. Like I said, this is a lecture that we got coming up in 2 weeks. But this is my, this was my part that I wanted to do tonight, just to touch on some things. You feel me? Yeah. Kanye is dropping and my guy Nas is dropping. And like I called a few weeks ago, Drake is right around the corner. His rollout was interrupted by Kanye, and I don't think that he's happy about that. So he's going to be trying to drop, and, anything is possible at this point because, like I said, his rollout was interrupted. Yeah, Nas already stamped Little Nas X, and he performed with him. And the Baby had a song with Little Nas X, if I can remember as well. So when in Rome, Rome has a lot of their influence in pop culture. We're going to continue to have more conversations leading up to the lecture. I'm going to bring on some special guests that are going to break down. We're going to get a little more deeper. This was the preliminaries, just to open up. I was just simply pointing out how these countries, that are the destination of a lot of these people happen to be, countries that are Roman in their nature, just based off the religion alone, because it's still a mind state as well. It's not just a religion, it's a mind state. It's a damn near lifestyle. Yeah, when you roaming through Rome, my nigga, yeah, you need to think like Hannibal or somebody. You might not want to be trying to be as the Romans and whatnot. You get, might want to be careful what you wish for. So, I ain't gonna keep y'all for long. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna keep y'all for long. Hit that Cash App up. Buy your tickets. We got tickets in the description right there. The link is in the description. In 2 more Thursdays, the 19th of August, I will be doing When in Rome. I'm gonna have special guests to be announced. And this shit is gonna be upstairs. Like I promise you, I'm gonna put it all together. I will definitely show you the Roman influence in the pop culture and the hyper masculinity that you see taking place. It's on hyper mode at this point. They said to emasculate is to take away your virility, my nigga. Your virility, right? When they hit you with the juice, they're trying to take away your virility. When they promote any type of negative vibrations, whether through GMO foods going all the way to GMO music, they're fucking with your virility. They're trying to interrupt, the things that make you who you are. Even on a mental tip, they're trying to have you secrete. They're trying to slow down your testosterone production with a lot of the shit that they're doing out here. Through the chemicals, through the food, through suggestion. Yeah, when in Rome, nigga, read the room. You know what I'm talking about? When in Rome, look for the throne. You know, when in Rome, look for the throne and read the room, nigga. And like I said, this ain't personal. This ain't towards Jerome. This is towards Rome. So if you're Jerome and you're in a way identifying yourself with a movement that you're not the head of, my nigga, you're just playing, you know, you're on tail's end. We're aiming at the head of the snake. We're trying to identify, you know, if these people have you know, we're trying to identify some things, man. We're doing some deep digging. We're gonna do some deep diving. We got questions. You know what I'm talking about? We got questions. You know, we see some things that are, you know, we see some patterns and whatnot that we're pointing out. So we're gonna dig a little bit deeper. All right. Yeah.
To this day. To this day.
There's a lot more information. I just had to get warmed up. We're just getting started. But you know, take it and do what you know what you must. But yeah, I'm gonna go check that verses out tomorrow. I'm gonna check that verses out. That's gonna be interesting. That'll bring back a lot of memories. You dig? That'll bring a lot of memories. But if there's any questions, I'll take a few questions before I get out of here. Shout out to everybody in the building. You know what I mean? And we on a late night and we deep up in here. So I appreciate every single one of y'all for pulling up. And yeah, let me also remind you, hold on. And before I forget, let's see, where is this? Boom. We got this available right here. I wasn't that intense when it came to the National Basketball Association. This is like 6 hours. Sincerely sorry for any. This is 6 hours.
Can be forecast using the right methodology.
We was going all the way in.
To lights, camera, action.
This is the lecture that I did, Fear of a Black and More Messiah. If anybody wants their top, if you want to get a, if you want to watch this, if you want to tap into this, just hit that Cash App right there with $44 in your email. And we'll send it right to your email. Me and my team will work on that. So y'all, and get you straight. With neurocinema. But we went in. We was tapping in. You know what I mean? I don't want you to miss out on this information. This is legendary shit. You know, so we just did this on Thursday. In the focus, as a result. Yeah, it was healthy. It was healthy. Shout out to everybody that was in the building. Sort of a crutch. It was healthy. Full slideshow. Saw Israeli type of function. And but yeah, we were definitely building. If anybody know about the Fear of a Black and More Messiah series, I started that in 2016. Said, fellas, put your phones in the air. Put your phones in the air, fellas. If you didn't give a man fellatio in a parking lot, make noise. And from what I heard, niggas was making noise because I don't think everybody was in the parking lot topping another man off. But apparently, however many of the people was in the audience that probably gave a nigga top before they went to see Little Uzi Vert and Lil Baby and Da Baby, they felt offended and they made a fucking ruckus about it. And it's Thursday and we're still talking about it. They're still talking about it on social media and other places because, you know, Oh, I got questions. My bad. I'm out here playing this video and y'all in the chat asking questions and whatnot. All right, hold on. What about 4 officers that responded to the Capitol riot died by suicide? I didn't know that. I got to do research on that. Is that right? Is that right? Did you puff that in English slang means? Did you peep that in English slang means? I don't know what that means. Interested in venues in Germany? We got a community of riders. Yeah, you got something in Germany, hit us up. COVID is becoming a wealth grab with mandatory vax and homelessness becoming illegal, but ending eviction moratorium. Oh yeah, they wilding out with the moratorium. Salute to everybody that's out there with you know, this with a roof over your head. You know, because they pulling some real, they're gonna pull some real wickedness starting this month. Me personally, me myself, man, I've been doing some meditations, and like I promise you, spirit is telling me that I need to get up and make a move, you know. Spirit is, it's not telling me exactly where to go, but it's like you need to make a move. You need to go somewhere where you could be more active and do some more things with the people in the community, because it's getting to this point where there's going to be work that needs to be done, and that work might be off of the computer with hands in the dirt, or some building type of thing, you know, trade like the brother Kwame Brown was talking about, or even coding, building. It's going to be building. It's going to be either building in the metaverse or building something in the real world. But if there's anybody out there, because the family is out there, and I know that I'm talking to people around the world. If y'all out there and y'all got anything, and you're resonating with what I'm talking about, right? I'm gonna send you my email. Hit me up. You know, hit me up. You know, that's what the ancestors told me to put out there. Told me to put the email out there and let those who you need to build with respond, because they're out there, and y'all need to get together to do something in these next coming months. You know, spirit is telling me to move around, so I'm listening to it. You know, and only serious people too, because I'm not really you know, we mature, and this is life or death, and this has profound you know, implications in many people's lives. So I'm not here playing games with nobody. It's really people that's, you know, really out there, you know, that's doing things, that have resources, that have initiatives, you know. They may they may be being told the same thing, you know. You know, people might be getting the same messages, you know, because yeah, this shit getting crazy. Shit getting crazy, bro. But yeah, that's it. I'm out though. I'm out of here. Y'all be good. I'm gonna leave this with a song called Ashe. This is off of the Deluxington. This is featuring America, Sutton, Lizzie Jeff, and Red Pillar. Happy belated to Lizzie Jeff. Her birthday was this weekend, and it was lit. She was turned up. She had a virtual birthday party, and all of her guests was wow. They was fire, super lit. So salute to them. All right, y'all. Peace and love. Peace and love. All right, hit that like button, share this, subscribe to the channel. Do what it do. Do what it do. Y'all grown. Y'all know what to do. We on social media. Make it happen. All right. So thank you everybody for being in the building. Love and light. I'll see y'all on Thursday. Blue Pill is on this too. Shout out to Blue Pillar.
I'm building with the tribe, let's rise. I'm healing, I'm allowed to cry. It's okay. I'm feeling like I won this time. I'm giving God my confessions, I feel at odds with depression. I'm taking my lessons and then I flex them as blessing up. Reflecting on my own concession. Come on. Hella competition between me and myself, but the vibe is felt, no. Hyperbole, manifesting miracles on Mercury. The way the bag appeared to me so perfectly, make me feel like there's nothing that can fuck with me. Come on, never heard of me, but listen carefully, pay attention. Frequencies and cryptic, quartz crystal dripping down my tits while I fish for crypto. Come on, feeling tempted when you visit the temple, but its potential is shifting my mental. I defeated the odds.
What's the thing around me and do? I'm doing it all.
Come on,
Black chakra.
Black dot, what else? Black opera, protect black fathers, respect our women. Speak life into the goddess and declare your intention. Speak to me, the point of intention.
My left to right. Rather than fake truth, fake truth. Shape you.